Hey, what's up guys, Ravenclaw here and welcome back to the Ravenclaw channel, and today is a special kind of video. Hopefully you'll be the first in many of these types of videos. It's essentially talking to rank 1 gladiator players, going through all different bits and pieces and picking their brains in what they have achieved in WoW and what got them to the top. Today we are talking to the rank 1 hunter, Dillypoo, so sit back and I hope you enjoy. So when did you first start playing WoW?
I first started playing WoW near like the very end of vanilla, right before BC started.
Yeah?
Yeah, I've been playing for a while.
Back in the day, geez, those were the good times.
Yeah, I never got max level until like BC though.
Yeah.
I was just, yeah.
What are your thoughts on the classic WoW happening?
I'm not really sure how I feel about it. I could see it being interesting. I feel like Hunter isn't as fun there, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, it has some interesting things about it that I'd probably like, but I felt like Hunter never was like really finished until later expansions. Like, I feel like Wrath of the Lich King is when they like really started to make Hunter feel kind of like a real class, I guess.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't know what I'd want to play in Classic because I've always liked playing Hunter. Like, I always liked the idea of it. It just felt really good back then. But
yeah.
TBH, if I was feeling like playing Marksman Hunter, I'm pretty sure Classic Hunter with Marksman has like more abilities than current Marksman Hunter in BFA, so maybe if I was like really itching.
Yeah, it's going to be something that like the modern day players are really going to, you know, struggle with when they go and try and play Classic as a hunter.
I mean, I feel like the biggest thing is people are going to play Classic because they want like the old school WoW grind feel. Although, I don't feel like I have that much time to do like a lot of grinding. Like, even in BFA, I just have a hard time even leveling characters because like whenever we had that time to level, like I pretty much did that. That was all the grinding I could do, and then I had like all my school semesters start. So I just feel like I wouldn't be able to get into Classic WoW. Yeah. Especially with me wanting to play like regular stuff. I kind of like Arena because it's more convenient for me to kind of jump in and play when I need to.
Yeah, no, I feel you. What made you choose the hunter class?
I don't know. I always liked hunters when I like watch stuff. Like, I remember like watching like Lord of the Rings and other fantasy movies when I was younger. I was like, yeah, why would I be a mage?
Yeah.
Just feel like OP or something when I just shoot arrows at people and still fuck shit up. So
yeah, no, I feel you. It's
like more relatable to shoot bows at someone, right?
Yeah.
You feel like more in line with your character when you're shooting like you're doing magic stuff. It's like, dang, I'm just OP. Like, I don't know.
I definitely that's definitely how I felt when I first started playing the hunter as well back in vanilla.
Yeah. Although also I like animals, so
I
like pets.
There you go. That's the way. Especially back in the vanilla when we used to have mana and running around with both like a polar arm and the bows and all that stuff. Yeah.
I mean, I like that stuff.
Yeah.
I liked having a little bit of everything. I thought it was cool. It's like that or warrior.
Oh yeah, true. So speaking of like the hunter, how do you feel about the current state of the hunter now? Like especially like MM being least used these days.
I feel like I really miss playing Marksman when it was in a lot better state.
Yeah. I
feel like it's gotten like so it's like at a point where I just feel like it's not even like a spec anymore, I guess. I made that joke about the classic thing with Marksman, but there's definitely some truth in that joke. I feel like it just doesn't have the kind of wow factor to me that just made it feel really fun and made it feel like I was playing a class.
Yeah.
I feel like they transitioned Marksman Hunter. Like, it used to feel Marksman was like you were like a master of having all these types of ranged attacks and arrows and stuff. But then they were like, yeah, we want you to be a sniper instead. And it's like a completely different idea from what I have. Like, I used to like that you had all different types of arrows you shoot. Like, oh, I have a poison arrow and I have this chimera shot. And I have all these different poisons and aim shots and arcane shots. Like, you always had so many different abilities, I guess, to choose from.
Yeah.
So it felt like a real marksman, like that you're like skilled in using all these ranged attacks. And now you have like only a couple ranged attacks and then you're a sniper. But it just seems it seems so impractical to even fit that sniper feel. Like when I'm thinking of like a fantasy archer, I feel like that's what the old marksman was, like using magical arrows and stuff. Trying to make you just a sniper is, I don't know, it's just, it doesn't feel right. Like it doesn't feel fitting.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely feel where you're coming from there.
Like if anything else was to have no magic, it's like warrior. Warrior's like the class that has no magic, and trying to make hunter just that doesn't feel right. I feel like the ideal hunter, it's like a mix between range, or sorry, between a warrior and a mage. Like you're like a physical class, and you kind of aren't super wizardy, but you have like magical attacks. Like
yeah,
that makes the most sense to me.
Yeah, definitely. So BlizzCon, are you entering it this year, or are you just going to check stuff out?
I'm just going to watch it.
Yeah.
My team, we barely miss qualifications. The way they have it is they have a point system throughout the year, so you play all your tournaments, and the top 3 for points on North America and Europe go. But they also had, every season that we had, there was a LAN. So the top 4 in each region, NA and Europe, would go to LAN. The winner guarantees themselves a BlizzCon spot.
Yeah.
So NA basically only gets 3 BlizzCon spots, but EU gets 5 because they won both LANs. So
right.
we were the 4th team, so we weren't able to go. So we did miss qualifying, but honestly, we didn't even expect to get that far. I think we did a lot. We definitely did a lot better than we would have expected to, especially just like one tricking. Even the team that won the first LAN.
Yep.
I mean, they played the same exact thing we did, and part of it, I think, was when we both talked about it. Like, a lot of the European teams kind of realized how to beat our composition.
Yes.
And the time we made it, my team hadn't been formed, but we signed up like the last cup. We went in there and we just clean stomped everyone because no one on NA really knew what to expect.
Yeah.
And by the time it was the LAN, even with more practice, all the European teams had figured out the strategy against our comp, and we went to the LAN, got all the European teams. You know, that same jungle, fought the same exact teams. They would always lose. We ended up going against them and lost, but they basically got the same exact bracket of only NA teams and pretty much every single team that we beat. So their team was definitely a little bit better than ours at the moment. So if we were able to beat those teams, they didn't have enough room to improve or really still adapt enough, and then they just got beat again. So they pretty much had the same exact bracket that caused us to win, and then they just were able to get that on LAN. And afterwards, I mean, it was the same thing. They just weren't able to really succeed too much on Europe, just because after that, everyone, you know, found every single like hard counter against their composition, like, and it was really difficult to do well. I mean, we had the same issue like towards the end of Legion. Both our teams, we just play the same comp, and everyone finally realizes what you can do against us, and it just went a little bit downhill until this expansion, pretty much.
Who are you rooting for at BlizzCon? What team are you going for?
It's like a little bit of a toss-up. Honestly, it's all the teams that have hunters, probably because I'm friends with most of them.
Yeah.
Peekaboo's team has jelly beans, so I want them to do well.
Yep.
But even though I don't really want Europe to win another BlizzCon,
Yeah.
I am favored towards Reform, which is the European jungle cleave that they won that first LAN event. I mean, we've pretty much consistently talked to each other, like shared strategies and things like that. So like we're pretty close with them. We both play the same exact thing, and we always share strategies.
Yeah.
And then from Australia and New Zealand, which I actually got to cast their event, there's the team Mad Dog that I believe they just got picked up by a sponsor, but it has another hunter, Yoski, on it. And yeah, I want their team, either one of those teams, to do well. I'd feel it. I definitely like an NA team to do better though than an EU one.
Yeah.
So, in Australia, they're honorary Americans when it comes to BlizzCon.
Well, that's always good to hear, especially for us Aussies. So speaking about like the hunter and everything these days, how do you feel about BFA at the moment?
Honestly, I actually do like it. Like, even though I said like you can't play marksman hunter because it doesn't feel that way.
Yeah.
It's weird because I feel like survival hunter kind of feels the way marksman hunter would be, even though it's melee. Like, I definitely feel like I have all different types of attacks. Like, I kind of like when hunter feels like quirky. Like, it doesn't feel like you're like forced into one thing. Like, I kind of like that we have different types of attacks, and they do flow together in like a kind of chaotic way, but it all works out nicely. and I like it has a lot of utility. And honestly, most of your attacks are still ranged anyways. It doesn't feel like that different for me to play from playing ranged hunter, especially from like an arena point of view, because usually hunters you'd always play very offensively in arena, and you'd always be pushed in anyways.
Yeah.
So it's like playing melee, it's not that much different, I guess. Like you still kite when you need to kite,
Yeah.
but when you're going in there the same way. And I mean, when you really want to burst someone, you could use your aspect of the eagle for range damage. So I feel like it does feel really, really fleshed out. Feels like a fun thing to play.
Okay. So you're a full-time streamer and YouTuber?
Not necessarily full-time. I mean, I have been streaming like kind of as much as I can.
Yeah.
But I also go to school, and then I have like another job, so it's like a mix of like when I do have the free time, I try to. It definitely is cool for me to do it.
Yeah.
It just I always juggle with so much other things, because it's like I have a relationship I'm in, and then I have school and work, and it's like
Definitely.
I like to play WoW too, so it's like sometimes I have to try to find sleep in there, and it's difficult. It's like a little.
I definitely know what you're talking about. Absolutely. Especially being a YouTuber myself, it's all about trying to balance life.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
still bring out that content, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so let's have a bit of a chat about PvP. So, firstly, congratulations on hitting 3K this season. That's absolutely wicked.
Oh yeah. So, we're trying to get that 3200. We were trying to do it before I had to go. I probably won't get it myself, just because like I let my teammates, like they'll be on their main characters, but I'll play with my friends, even the ones that like haven't played in a while, or like maybe like I have some European friends that I play with him a lot in Legion, and he like made an NA character, has no gear, and I lose every game with him. But I mean, honestly, it doesn't really matter much. Like if my team gets it, I feel like it's the same exact thing, because we're still at the same rating. Like it doesn't really change anything.
Yeah, for sure. So how does it feel being a rank 1 hunter?
Sometimes I miss being a noob, because I feel like when you're a noob, it's like cool, because you sort of have something to strive for, but also I think there's some things, I guess, that don't annoy you as much when you're a noob. Like some things will annoy you because you're bad and you don't know why you're losing. But I guess I never had that mindset. For me, I noticed as I started to get rank 1 titles, I just be annoyed of when like I actually like understand everything, and then sometimes if I lose when I know it's just gonna happen, I guess that definitely has annoyed me more. I think just sometimes I just wish I was like more ignorant, I guess. It makes it more fun, like, because eventually you just start taking it too seriously, which is why I decided to stop playing tournaments, because I like to just play the game for fun, and I feel like when I'm just trying nonstop to only compete in tournaments and thinking about those, it's not as fun for me as me just playing with my friends and just doing our best.
Speaking of arenas, what's your preferred comp for 2s and 3s, and why?
For 3s?
Yeah.
I think Feral Hunter Healer with the Disc Priest has always been my favorite comp to play. I always like it. It just feels like so good with my playstyle. Like I always felt like it's kind of a mix of like playing with a warrior and playing with a rogue as a hunter, because when you play with the warrior, your comp's about consistent damage and then maybe getting some CC. And then when you play with the rogue, it's all about having like a burst setup with your CC, and then your consistent pressure doesn't really matter. I feel like with the Feral, it's like kind of an in-between. It's like you're always all-inning, but you're really trying to get CC chains, and then you also have like burst windows you're looking for. So I feel like there's just so much more going on. I always felt like Feral is just the perfect partner for Hunter. I always like playing with them.
Yeah, absolutely.
I learned how to PvP playing with Ferals. Like I was a noob, and a couple of them taught me how to play, and yeah, that pretty much has always made it my favorite composition to play, no matter what.
Definitely. And did I hear that Ferals are getting cloned back?
Yeah, they are. I think that's actually pretty interesting. Yeah, I feel like it won't do too much with like Feral Hunter Priest. I think it's gonna be just good with like other Feral comps. Because I honestly, it's like, since Spear and Clone still share DR, I don't think it's gonna do much for Feral Hunter Disc Priest, because sometimes you're gonna be getting fear, so it's not really gonna matter for your CC chain, and it definitely seems like it's gonna, since it's still it's casted and it's not like instant, you can't do it in cat form. you're gonna CC yourself for a good amount of time. So like I feel like it causes momentum loss in any really offensive feral comp. But if they want to play with casters, I feel like it gives people a reason to want to play other stuff with them. Like, even though Feral Hunter is my favorite composition, it doesn't feel good if either one of those specs feels pigeonholed into only playing with each other. So I kind of like it that you maybe see more comp diversity from them getting that.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so when you step into the arena, how do you and your team determine the kill target?
Usually, we try to think of what's either going to be the easiest target to kill, or what makes it so that even if the target's maybe tanky, by going on them, we just get the cleanest possible setups. So like, maybe for example, you're going up against a Boomkin and a Demon Hunter. Boomkins are pretty tanky, and Demon Hunters are sort of squishy, but they're also really mobile. If we try to go on like a Demon Hunter, we're going to be thinking, well, we're not going to be able to really peel him that much because we won't be able to use things like roots on him, and we're going to have a Boomkin that's spamming clones on us, and he's going to be running away, and it's going to be annoying for us. So we'll instead think, if we go on a Boomkin, even though they're also hard to kill, by going on them, we can go through that tanky target because we're able to have a cleaner game. Whereas in the situation that you go on the Demon Hunter, your game will feel sloppy. It'll be a lot easier for them to kind of stop what you're trying to do, and you just kind of make it more of a clown fiesta going on the Demon Hunter, even if you can kind of die. So we're always trying to think of like what makes the game reliable. Like you always want to prioritize your targets based on what makes the game smooth for you. So you prioritize based on if they're squishy and they're going to die easy, and then you prioritize if the strategy is just going to make the game just go really smoothly. Sometimes it doesn't matter if they're tanky or they can kite you. If going that target just means everyone else can't do anything either. Okay,
excellent. So what tips do you have to efficiently CC as a hunter?
Usually when you efficiently CC, I try to either coordinate with my team, but also sometimes I won't. Sometimes I'll look for my own opportunity. Like at survival, I'll look for times that I can maybe harpoon trap, but I only will not want to rely on my teammates if I'm thinking ahead that if I harpoon trap and trap alone, or maybe I play camouflage and I trap from stealth, then this gives my team the opportunity that if my healer, say Disc Priest, wants to go for a fear, we still have a stun available. So if he can't follow up the trap with the fear, then he still has a stun to buy him more time. So, and then the situation where you stun and then you trap, then it might be harder for him to fear. So sometimes I try to think of what might make it easier for my team to get a cleaner CC chain overall versus just me getting my CC.
Yes.
And as far as doing that, sometimes it's just being patient. There's times where like I'll fight a Disc Priest and maybe I'll harpoon to him, and I'll just force him to waste time, maybe thinking about having to use Shadow or Death, or well, now Premonition, and trying to avoid that CC, or maybe have to use a fear on me. And honestly, even if I get fear, that means that he's trying to stop me from trapping, and my healer doesn't have to worry about it. So he has the window to kind of push in. So sometimes you have to think if you're in this situation where you're going for your CC, if it actually helps your team. And when you stop only just thinking about like the selfish play, and you start being selfless, it makes it a lot easier for your CC to be fluid. Now there's times where you're going to want to coordinate, and you just have to look for that. But there's always advantages of times where you try to do things, you know, kind of by yourself, if you can do that. Like, for example, people aren't going to try to eat your traps as easily if you don't stun a healer. When you stun someone's healer, every team's mindset is to try to run and eat your traps. So if that's happening, usually you want to think that, okay, maybe I'm just going to try to trap alone. That way I don't have them all stacked up together, and it's easier for me to do what I want.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's not all about just going straight in for the harpoon and dropping the trap, is it? It's more about knowing about what will happen to break the CC.
Yeah, exactly. Like you always want to think pretty much ahead of time when you're going to do something. It's definitely hard at first when you're still learning, but the more comfortable you get with your spec and like your keybinds, then you eventually, it's almost like riding a bike, where the other stuff that you're doing, like hitting your keybinds, whatever, doing damage, that stuff becomes almost second nature, that you're not having to think about that as much, and you can kind of plan out ahead of time of what should be happening. So you always, even if you want to be playing fast or reacting fast, you still want to have a general idea of what you want to happen. Even if it doesn't exactly go like that, you should be like, okay, if I trap here, this is gonna be good. We can go offensive, or have some idea behind it. Like you want to kind of judge the situation.
Yeah, definitely, absolutely. So moving on from now, we've spoken about the CC. What's the important thing for the hunters out there to focus on when it comes to damage?
So when you're doing your damage, I think one thing that I notice people mess up a lot as survival hunter in general is they fail to kill command pretty much off cooldown. And part of that is because maybe if they've played survival in Legion and they're thinking, oh, I have Mongoose Bite permanently, so I want to just dump all my Mongoose Bites and then I'll kill command. And that can really put you in bad situations where, yeah, there's times where you might want to actually dump all your focus and ignore that. But the biggest thing is people do that too much. And if you're thinking about a longer period of time, your damage output, you always want to be kill commanding and keep it like off cooldown when available, even if it means Mongoose Bite and you kill command for a global. It's going to be good for you in the long run because that means over that Mongoose Bite window, you probably get another Mongoose Bite in there. You're doing more DPS, and then whenever you have CC, you're always going to have your focus available. Yeah. And it's really important not to focus starve yourself. So I think the transition between going from like Legion style back into BFA, it throws people off. But if they had played Hunter kind of before, like in Cataclysm, Mist of Pandaria, Warlords of Draenor, where you were steady shotting or Cobra shotting to get your focus back, it's kind of the same mindset. Like you don't want to just dump all your focus and then not regen it. Like you want to, have a good flow of it. I guess it's really important to manage your focus well.
I definitely understand. Back in the day when the survival hunt was arranged and you had things like glaive toss, black arrow, all of that, it was a different sort of, like you said, it's a different mindset now that it's more of a hybrid class with your melee and ranged. I definitely feel like, especially when other hunters speak to me about this, like the first thing that definitely comes up is like focus, like always feeling focus starved.
Yeah, and definitely that just comes down to like kill commanding when it's available. If you do that enough, you're always going to be fine.
Definitely.
I pretty much never let myself feel focus starved.
Yeah.
The only time that really happens is like if I'm wing clipping, I guess, which is pretty much why I don't wing clip because it's not very efficient. Like the only time I would use that is if with Wildfire Infusion, if I get a Pheromone Bomb and I have kill command resets, then I'll wing clip. Or if I'm like sitting on some healer, like I'm sitting on a Disc Priest trying to keep him slowed, and I'm just trying to bait out Premonition so that I can trap him. Then at that point, I don't really care wasting my focus because I'm not even attacking my kill target anyway, so it doesn't really matter. I'm just sitting on a healer. But otherwise, as far as like trying to keep it 100% uptime on a DPS, that's probably something that seems weird, but you probably shouldn't do. And then just making sure you're just kill commanding frequently.
So I've got a couple of questions that have come in from some of my viewers that wanted to ask you. So the first one comes in from Reese James Davis. What's your preferred spec in PvP? And how do you combat Disc Priest? So how do you kill Disc Priest, or like what do you do when you're up against a comp that does have a Disc Priest?
Okay, so favorite spec for PvP, Survival Hunter. Love playing it right now. I think of all the Hunter specs to play, feels like it has the most utility, most options in the game. Yeah, I think it's pretty fun to play. As far as Disc Priest, so Disc Priest, I think we actually are pretty good against them as survival. The thing that a lot of people might fall into is probably trying to tunnel them. Some classes like Warriors are good at tunneling them, and some melee classes are actually good at just targeting the Disc Priest, pressing W, getting a win that way. But a lot of the time, it's not too good for you to do that as a hunter. You're more of a CC class, and you can put them really behind by getting good CC on them. So things that I would say to look out for is when I'm fighting a Disc Priest, I'm probably not going to be trying to kick on Shadowmen. Probably the biggest mistake people make is kicking Shadowmen for heal and leaving them open to cast penances and things like that. Now when I'm fighting a Disc Priest, I'm thinking about casting them on penance, or sorry, kicking them on penance. So that's really good. Some things you can do to be really annoying is if they are, say, offensively penancing you, because they will want to do that for atonement healing, spread healing on their team. If you actually feign death that, like the second you see that and you know it's on you and you're fast enough, that can really shut down a Disc Priest because now you kind of stopped his biggest heal and you saw the damage it does on you, and then now you maybe still have a kick available, and that's going to be really annoying for him.
Sure.
If you're ever going to kick, you know, on a Shadow Man, do it if like, say your partner kicks penance, then he casts Shadow Man, then you kick it. Like you want to do it kind of together with your team. Otherwise, it's a little bit of a waste. In 2v2 situations versus Disc Priest teams, as long as they don't have a mage, I will have Spider Sting and use it on the Discipline Priest. Now, if they had a mage, I'd be using the Spider Stings on the mage, but because they need to rely on Atonement to do damage, shutting them down with that is really important. In situations that you could be using Tracker's Net, so say maybe a Barrel Hunter Disc Mirror, then you could take Tracker's Net and you can kind of use it on their Disc Priest. And by doing that, the biggest thing they rely on is they have bad mobility and they want to be able to get fears. So if you're using those at a good time on them, you kind of make it really difficult for the priest to actually go offensive the way he wants to. So you could kind of use those roots to be really annoying to their class. So with Disc Priest, kind of slowing them down whatever way you can, making sure, you know, you're not getting death on traps, things like that. Those are all you got to work out for. And if you get your traps at good times, you really stop them from being able to go offensive. That's how you're going to shut them down, and you get good CC. Eventually, you're going to get the win against them.
Absolutely. And that's like we spoke about just before, was knowing when to trap, you know, things like premonition and grounding totems and all of these things. It's just another part of knowing your enemy class.
Right. And that's actually, those specific abilities, that is where I would say stuff like Omnibar is really important, like not just for the defensive cooldowns, but just the stuff that could break CCs. I would say it's awesome for saying, oh, okay, now he used premonition. Okay, now I'm good to trap. Or now they use grounding. I'm good to trap, or things like that. Or just thinking, well, I saw him use it a couple of seconds ago. Does he have it back up? That add-on's like perfect because you actually know when they have it back up. So you can just know if, oh, maybe I could just run him really quick and just trap him and he won't have anything for it. Whereas without it, you might kind of doubt it because you're thinking like, oh, I know he can use this thing, but I don't know if he has it up yet. You know, I saw him use it. You know, when you're not completely sure, it's always good, especially that grounding, because then if you know they have no grounding and maybe it's a Resto Shaman has no grounding, you have Tracker's Net, you don't need to even run up to him. You could be 40 yards away. You could just root him and then throw the trap. He can't do anything because he has no grounding anymore. So using those to track the cooldowns, that could really help you out, I think.
Absolutely. And so the last question from the viewers is from Dawn Zubin. It talks about... she says, I'd like to know, as MM, what your advice is going to be for the near future. Like, how do you feel that the actual spec is going to come back, especially in the changes in 8.1? What are your feelings on like the rotations and things like that, and more so she can improve?
That's a really hard one because it's like all subject to change on what they do with marksman, and I feel like the biggest thing is unless they give a good amount of utility, it's not going to feel like still a good spec in PvP. I mean, that's the biggest thing, that it really lost so much utility. Now, it was an awkward spec to play damage-wise in Legion, but it had so much utility that it worked out. Like, because you had Bursting Shot, you had Trap, like you had so much working in your favor that you're able to make a really awkward DPS rotation kind of work. And right now, it's like they're kind of making the DPS rotation a little bit less awkward from like what I'm looking at, but you still have some issues where you just don't really have much utility. Yeah. And I mean, that's the biggest concern that I have. I mean, if it ends up doing really good damage, maybe you'll be able to play in like a comp with a rogue or like something that can really lock something down enough for you that you could sort of tee off and makes up for it. Like if I would think maybe, oh, maybe marksman with a sub rogue is really good if marksman happens to possibly do the highest damage of any hunter spec. Like let's say marksman does more damage than survival hunter does, but obviously it's just Casa has less utility, then maybe you could play with the sub rogue and just blow people up, like that kind of thing. But otherwise it's just such a hard thing to really know at this point, unless they give more like fleshed out 8.1 changes, like what you'd be looking for. I would just say stay current with whatever patch notes are, because they could still make changes to the rotation or whatever happens, and what what Azerite trades are best and things like that. It doesn't look very doesn't seem like their 8.1 changes for Marksman Hunter are finished yet. That's what I would think. If I'm a Marksman Hunter, I'm looking at it. It just doesn't seem like it's finished. Not that it's complete. Some specs, like if I look at Shadow Priest, I'm like, huh, this seems probably what they're gonna ship 8.1 with, right? But they have a lot of specs on their list that they're kind of looking at. So I'm thinking, okay, some of the specs just maybe I haven't seen anything. They're probably working on it. Like they're probably like, okay, we got to do this, or they have some stuff planned, but they're like pushing it out in waves, you know, building up the hype. What you never know how they're going about it, or maybe they're just testing each little bit at a time.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I definitely feel where you're coming from there. But yeah, so Dilly, just closing up now. So, is there any advice that you can give to the hunters watching out there?
Always blame your healer. No. Advice. I would just say, like, if you really do like playing your hunter, you can definitely make it work. I think it is a good spec, and I think being like more comfortable to change and kind of learning more about other classes, I feel it makes playing a hunter a little bit more enjoyable, because the one advantage I've always felt about hunters is we're kind of like a jack of all trades. So if you can kind of pick up things from like other classes and watching them, you could be like, you know, I could kind of do that. Maybe it's not the same exact way as that. Maybe it's not as effective, but I have my own hunter way of doing that, and maybe I could use that to my advantage. I feel like that's something that I always did. Like I used to, at a time where there weren't really any hunter streamers in Cataclysm, I'd watch mages play. I'd watch warriors play. There were tons of mages and warriors, always a super popular class, and I was like, I feel like if I play my hunter kind of like a mage and a warrior, this would be pretty good. I feel like it works out almost the same. Like they're similar classes, so maybe I could take some stuff. Mages kind of think like this, warriors sort of do this. Maybe I kind of make my own thing off of that. And I mean, I definitely think you could learn from watching other classes as a hunter. Not necessarily like you have to stop playing your hunter. You just kind of get a better idea of how other things work, and you'll feel like you have more of a place as a hunter that way, I think. Wonderful,
absolutely. And finally, where can people find you, man? Like, how can my guys support you if they want to?
My Twitch is dilly_wow. I don't really put anything on YouTube, so don't know if I have a link for that. But usually, I definitely try to stream as much as possible under that channel.
Absolutely. And do you have your Twitter and everything like that they could follow?
Yeah, my Twitter, same exact thing, just dilly_wow. So pretty much both of those, that'd be the lookout for. If I ended up putting something on YouTube, I would probably end up tweeting it there, even though I very rarely do. So
no, that's okay. That's awesome. But yeah, so Dilly, I can't thank you enough for taking the time to hang out with me today and have a chat. It's been absolutely wonderful. I'm sure that the hunters that are going to be watching this video are going to take a lot away from it.
Yeah, for sure. It was great being here.
Absolutely, man. And I hope you have a good time out at BlizzCon.
Thank you.
And
for sure.
So thank you so much, man. And I'm sure we'll talk again soon.
All right, cool. See you.